social slime, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, laugh to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slide, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. This is Game On with your host, Ron Stevens, and it is the February 28th, 2016. And I got to say, it's kind of pleasant out today. I went for a walk up and get a coffee, and it's about, I don't know, 5, 6 above. Water's pouring off the buildings, and the snow seems to be melting somewhat. So, and it's sunny. We don't get that much sun here in the wintertime. We're up on the shore of Lake Huron, and it just, the winters just, you know, I grew up in the Ottawa Valley, and while it was considerably colder there in the winter, it was a drier cold, and it was sunny a lot. So it was very, very nice to see the sun today. I went to the chat last night after the show, and I kind of scrolled through it a little bit. And it's tearing me up, man. This is supposed to be some of the stories I read from the chat last night, in the show I did last night. You know, it'll bring a tear to my eyes. There's really good people who haven't harmed anybody. Getting just their lives destroyed because this government of ours, supposed government of ours, is supposed to have a duty of a care for the people, was constituted by and is run by lawyers. And they legislate whatever the hell they want. The lawyers do. And we're under their thumb. And they can just get anything legislated that they want because the government's full of lawyers. Any business that is full of lawyers who are friends with the lawyers and the government, who want to poison your food or frack your land or stick a windmill beside your house or, put up your licensing fees or, restrict your water usage or put the price of your water way up, have the capacity to do that. And they're doing it. They've been doing it. And it's the grind down of the people. And people still turning a blind eye like they don't see what's right in front of their face. And that's part of the dumbing down of the school system. That's their job, is to dumb people down, to keep people in a state of fear, so that they don't come to the aid of their neighbor in that. well, we don't want to get involved in that. We better just look away. It's really a sad statement on our part or for us. I mean, it's really freaking sad. It's just sad. They told us they gave us responsible government. There's nothing responsible about it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just a company, and you're the resource, and they're bleeding them resources. People complain about resource extraction, Well, they want to put a mine up here, so let's all go protest. You are the mine. Okay, they've been mining your ass forever. Okay, you're the ore. And they put you in the smelters and extract from you and sell you and profit from you, and then turn around and tax you. I mean, this is beyond rude. So I don't know where to go from here, but they're closing it in on us, seemingly faster by the day. And we really, I don't know, we really got to, I was hoping, I mean, people are waking up, but I don't know. I mean, I have always stated since I first started this 10 years ago that we will win. And we're supposed to win. Last night I looked at the towns. There's like 2.8 lawyers per 1,000 people on average in Canada. So that means that in 1,000 people, there's basically 997 people being controlled and their lives controlled by 2.8 people. That makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. How can 3 people control the other 997 people? Why would we allow that? How could we allow that? It was the same thing with when they started the colonies in the United States. They didn't want nothing to do with lawyers. They'd been through that nonsense. They run them out of the towns. Why are we going to lawyers? I mean, lawyers are a criminal faction. They're a criminal outfit. They're I mean, I talked about that cant language last night, and the fact they didn't bring up the lawyers, but even in Wikipedia, they brought up the fact that the medical field uses a cant language that we the layman doesn't understand. Well, that's no different than the legalese. We're not trained in that, and it's a cant language. Okay, it's a language that only their club members understand. So they're able to deceive you with the language. I mean, land used to mean land, terra firma. Now land can mean just about any damn thing. They just make it mean that. So they're talking to you, and I mean, one of the oldest tricks in the book. And that's a cant trick. That's a deception trick. You go to court and they say, "Are you so and so?" And you go, "Well, yeah." Well, they got you. Okay? Because they're using the plural you. Now they say they're not, but they are, because it wasn't you that was brought to court. Okay? They brought that fiction that they created. You're separate from, but somehow indivisible. And most people don't realize that even exists. So that's how that cant language works. And I mean, it's just full of it. I mean, we're in court. I actually asked for an interpreter. And the judge says, "Well, you seem to speak pretty good English." And I said, but we're not dealing in English. Okay, that's not the language of the court. The language of the court is legalese. And I don't speak it, and I don't understand it. You might as well be speaking Portuguese to me. But I didn't get an interpreter, of course. You know, people think lawyers are smart. Well, they're smart in the fact they set their system up, and they stole you at birth through that plagiarism. And if you look that up, it says rip-off. You got ripped off. You know, it actually says that it's the theft of a child or a slave. And if you look at the laws of the slave from back in Roman times, it's very, 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 very similar to the legal system we have today. And we are the cattle. We are the resource. And we've got to stop being the resource because they're extremely greedy. They have no right to you. You know, and they say, well, you got a driver's license, therefore you have to abide by the rules we make. Like, says who? Well, it says here on this piece of, I'm so sick of paper. I am so frickin' sick and tired of paper. I don't even want to look at paper anymore. Well, it says here on the paper that your lawn's too long. What? It says here on the paper you can't have that vehicle in your driveway because it doesn't have a plate on it. It says here on this piece of paper that you have to build this way. It says here on this piece of paper that we legislated that your hydro rates are going to go through the ceiling because we created a huge fraud through Enron on behalf of the boys that started the UN, which is to drive you into poverty by ever-increasing electrical and water rates under the absolute fraud that it's about saving the planet. It's about robbing you. And these are robbers. They're robber barons. And so anytime a big company wants to screw you over, they just simply go and legislate to screwing over. And then they make some paper. See, here it says on this paper, we can screw you over. Well, I don't know nothing about that. Well, you voted. Well, no, I didn't. Well, you should have. Right? But for the next 5 years, this group of people sitting there can basically do whatever the hell they want, and you can't say shit about it. If you don't like it, well, you can always vote them out the next time. And we'll just put some new lawyers there. And we'll just carry on. And if you don't like that in 4 or 5 years, well, you can vote them out. And we'll just put in some new lawyers and do what we want. And I don't know how long this, I was talking to a realtor yesterday. And you go, well, how is it that, my understanding is we didn't buy a house or land. We just bought this abstract concept thing. I told a realtor when I was talking to the real estate board, they said that, probably half of the realtors don't know about this. And the realtor I was talking to says, no, that's not true. Everybody knows it. Well, I don't know it. I do now, but I didn't before. I would think that most of the buyers out there don't know it. They're led to believe that they're buying a house on a piece of land and that house and that piece of land belongs to them. I said, don't you have to be kind of a little bit honest? Don't you have a duty of care to be honest? I've never seen a sign out there, abstract concept for sale. Crown lease for sale. Never seen that. And I said, then I find out that, and I thought this, I didn't know, I thought if I said this, I might get a weird reaction, but it didn't. I says, my understanding is that the banks don't lend anybody any money. They create the credit with the signature. And the realtor goes, oh, yeah. But I said, people don't know that. You know, they're out there saving up their down payment and they're sweating and they're counting their pennies and they're eating margarine instead of butter and they're, busting their asses like a bunch of dogs to raise this down payment. And then they go to the bank and they're all nervous to see if they qualify, and they're shoving paper in front of people's faces of which they don't understand because it's written in cant. And they don't read most of this stuff. It's not explained to them because their mind is on, are we going to get the mortgage? Are we going to get the mortgage? That's all that they're thinking about. Well, yeah, well, let us look at it and we'll get back to you. Can you come into the office? Yeah. We're pleased to say that you've qualified for the mortgage. Oh, isn't that wonderful? We've qualified for the mortgage. Oh, all that stress we've been through. We've qualified for the mortgage. This is fantastic. Yes, here, just sign here, here, and here, and here. Oh, thank you so very much. We got the loan. We got the loan. This is fantastic. Hey, everybody, we got the loan. We got the house. We got the loan. Yeah, you have to come over once we get possession because we're going to have us a housewarming party because we got the house because we got the loan. Well, you didn't get the house and you didn't get the loan. You didn't get jack shit. Complete and total fraud. And that's what I said before. You can look at the real estate connected to the lawyers, connected to the bankers as an axis of evil. Because that's exactly what it is. Because each one of these has basically, for all intents and purposes, exclusive rights in those particular businesses. Real estate's a little looser, but they make sure that they advertise enough that you don't want to sell a place yourself or do one of these, sell it yourself because there's so many pitfalls. You want to make sure it's done completely right. So, hire one of these professional real estate agents, okay? They'll do good by you. Well, they didn't tell you any truth. Is that doing good by you? And this is supposed to be responsible government, and you're given exclusivity to these particular groups who fleece you. It's really sad. It's really freaking sad. I mean, I wasn't going to bring this up today, but I read some of them comments in the chat last night. It just really messed me up. It really messed me up. Like, who's the criminal? They come at these people like criminals. And, any opportunity they have to hurt someone, they hurt them. Well, that's against the law, but they're not in law. Okay, legal is similar to like, but not law. Law is do no harm. I read a thing in there last night where somebody was trying to put a claim or whatever in there or whatever it was, and had to send a check, and they got it late, so they sent the check in, make sure they get it there, and they cash the check, keep the money, and say, sorry, you're too late. Well, we're going to have my money back. No. Well, this is ridiculous. Oh, Canada. I don't know if that was after the show or I said that last night or whatnot. I put that movie up again because a lot of the time, and I wish people would do that, go back and if you're doing your blogs or your Facebooks or whatever, I wish people would go back and reload some of your older stuff because people are waking up and they are looking, but there's so much really good stuff that was posted, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe longer, that people are not, they don't know about. And, I post some stuff up that I did like 207, 208, 209 that, maybe didn't get too many hits on it when I first posted it, and now it's getting a whole lot more hits, and it's getting a lot more conversation about it. and comments and that, because there's more people now that are waking up, and there's so much really good information that maybe those people aren't privy to. When they go to your blog and they see your latest post, or they go to your Facebook or whatever, and they see, you know, the latest stuff. I think there's some really good stuff that's older that would help people along quite a bit. There's some really good stuff that is very detailed out there, and instead of the latest thing, because when you're doing the latest thing all the time, it's too close to what they're seeing on the TV and that. So I don't think I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I do believe that some of this older stuff needs to get reposted to bring newer people to the understanding. I know it's a lot of work going searching this stuff back through again, but like I'm not the biggest blogger on the planet, but you know, I think there's there's over 1,000 posts on that blog now. That's you know, every now and again I'll go check it, and I'll see somebody looking at something. I don't even recall posting the damn thing. I mean, it's so long ago, but they're still digging that stuff up. So that's a good thing. Anyways, I went to get a coffee this morning, and they're coming at us with they used to do one thing to us at a time, and they would propagandize one particular subject to us at a time. Now, when we got Lieutenant Governor Dowdeswell, Elizabeth Dowdeswell is the Lieutenant Governor here in Ontario, and she said before she got here that she was sick and tired of this incremental change. She just wanted it done, and she was one of the forwards on Local Agenda 21. And when you think about Agenda 21, that thing was signed in 1992, and the first mention I found of it was in Hamilton in 1987, and they actually used the term Agenda 21 when it hadn't even been it didn't really, you know, get its legs till 92 in Rio, and when our so-called leaders signed us onto it. So it's been a long time that they've been running this frickin' program through at us, and you know, they've got such a head start on us. And now I went to get a coffee this morning, and here's the headlines kind of thing, right? Is Ottawa treating all refugees fairly? I don't know. I didn't look at it. Climate change is wreaking havoc on our mental health. Really? How's your mental health? Does it feel wreaked because of climate change? No. But this is the kind of crap that is going on. As we welcome 25,000 Syrian refugees, those from elsewhere feel forgotten. So I guess we're going to be bringing a bunch more from somewhere else. This is the same time that you know, our manufacturing has been gutted out. The good jobs have left the country for the most part, except for the pencil pushers. The actual manufacturing stuff is pretty well non-existent anymore. And so we have the migrants, immigrants. We have the climate change problem here. We have the euthanasia program going with a heading here. Is an extra month of life for a cancer patient really worth $9,000? You know, can we start a conversation on that? Well, I don't know. If they're that sick, I don't know why we're spending the other $9,000. That money could be used to, you know, mitigate climate change or feed the hungry or something. I mean, these people aren't going to get better, so why are we spending good money on them? You know. Meanwhile, the RCMP racks up $900,000 in 5 months on the BC terrorism case of which they created. So they crack up $1 million basically in 5 months. And this cancer patient over here, though, not so much, right? 5 months, that would be 45 grand. But in the same 5 months, the RCMP blew out 900 grand. So maybe it's worth spending $9,000 on the cancer patient, and it's not worth spending 900 grand for the RCMP. Maybe it's the cancer patient we ought to think about saving and euthanizing the RCMP. Now, that would maybe work. That would solve a lot of harm. That would probably save a lot of lives. If lives matter, the RCMP tasering people to death and shooting people to death and setting up these false flag terrorist activities, maybe it's the RCMP that needs to be euthanized. Maybe it'll make us all safer. Okay, so then we got the Brexit. I don't even know how to pronounce it. B-R-E. What's that say? Brexit. Anxiety plunges British pound to 209 recession levels, right? So they're coming at us hard from pretty much every place they can come at us from. Coroner's journey from palliative care to climate despair. I got to read this. What the hell is that even supposed to mean? A coroner's journey from palliative care to climate despair. Does that make any sense to anybody? Let's see here. David Ouchterlony has spent years calmly coping with death. Can the lessons of that experience help dampen the anxiety he feels now over climate change? David is a coroner who spent 10 years as a full-time palliative care physician at the Temi Latner Center for Palliative Care at Mount Sinai Hospital. Here he compares and contrasts his daily experience with the suffering of others to the emotional distress he feels when thinking about climate change. It's hard for me to separate my feelings about bad news, suffering, and death that I develop in palliative care from those I have developed as a coroner. There are physicians who offer conference seminars on identifying and coping with stress in medical practice. I have never felt the need to register for one of these. I have never felt that my experience with dying patients and grieving families has caused me any distress that I take away into my own life. I sleep well, I stay fit, I have friends and a happy marriage, and I have some laughter every day. On the other hand, I have to recognize almost daily that death is all around me all the time. I see dead bodies, talk to shocked or grieving family members at the scene of death or by phone, and I write reports on my investigations, so I have many more regular reminders of death than most people, even more than most physicians. How does this affect me? Hard to say. I would need an identical twin brother as a comparison. Certainly there are sad moments, and not infrequently I am moved to close to tears, especially when talking to parents, hearing expressions of love and dealing with deaths of infants and children. These moments are brief, however, and soon forgotten in the busyness of the investigation. The changes I see in myself that I might attribute to this medical work are several. I am more constantly reminded of the fact that death is inevitable than most people are. It remains to be seen if I will be more accepting of death when my own time comes. I am perhaps more aware of the dangers around me and more fearful of accidental death than others. I drive more slowly than I'm used to. I always hold on to a railing when descending a staircase. I get my checkups and my screening coloscopies. I stopped skiing, never liked it much anyways. These feelings and actions that come from my work may seem trivial when weighed against the effect that the knowledge of climate change has on me. This is messing me up. In my view, climate change is a certainty. So uncertainty is not an issue for me. If it is not addressed now and effectively, life on this planet will be very different and much more dangerous. I know I have contributed to the problem as a person enjoying the energy-dependent lifestyle we know today, but I also know that as one person I can't make much of a difference. The feeling of helplessness was my very first reaction when I fully understood the situation. Found it very frustrating to not be able to find anything I could do that might help. My first strategy was talk to people to try and encourage understanding among those around me. This led to more and more acute frustration as I discovered that I knew many climate change deniers whose opinions I could not change. My distress has also come from considering the fate of my children, grandchildren, and subsequent generations of people everywhere around the world. It comes, too, from recognizing that only large-scale climate change across international boundaries will make a significant difference to the fate of humanity. In contrast to my relative in the face of the distress and suffering of patients and families, I have what seems to be a deeper sense of fear. Dread may be a better word about climate change. I have had nights when sleep was difficult, usually when a climate-denying friend had annoyed me. I am disturbed by what seemed to me to be excessive use of gasoline engines, from single-occupancy vehicles on busy highways to the constant hum of gardening machines. I get angry and frustrated to hear of politicians, business leaders, and journalists who do not understand the situation, or who say they do, but they don't act as if they do. Each of these reminders stirs up my fear of what is coming in small daily doses. These stirrings add up to make me a more serious person. I think I work not to fall into pessimism. I don't feel depressed, and I think I would recognize it if I was. Could it be that my professional experience, the years of dealing with bad news and difficult times for patients, somehow improved my ability to deal with my own feelings about climate change? Are climate deniers, some of them in brackets, just trying to avoid the fears that arise once they accept the truth of what is coming? I have for years been advocating acceptance of bad news to people dying of cancer so that they can make good decisions at the end of life. There seems to be a close parallel with the situation. People can only make good decisions when they have and accept all the facts. States of mind. Not all people process climate change the same way. Norwegian psychologist Per whatever says that those who suffer are the ones who take in the science, care deeply, and often experience climate change effects directly. 13% are alarmed. They believe climate change is a threat and are most likely to suffer depression. 31% are concerned. They see the need for a strong response, but don't meaningfully change their lifestyle. 23% are cautious. They tend to view it as someone else's problem. 7% are completely disengaged. They hardly notice the climate change coverage and treat it mostly background noise. That their detachment protects against psychological distress. 13% are doubtful. They make up excuses to justify lifestyles that constitute the problem. And 13% are dismissive, often called deniers. They are convinced climate change is a hoax aimed at redistributing global wealth, and they refuse to alter their lifestyles. Well, the 13% at the bottom are right. It is a hoax, and it is all about redistributing global wealth. And how do we know that? Well, you don't have to do much research to figure that one out. You really don't. But where did that stuff get to? Okay. I mean, what does this guy, where am I here? I mean, what does this guy say who was on the IPCC? IPCC official Ottmar Edenhofer, or whatever, speaking in November 2010, advised that One has to free oneself from the illusion that international climate policy is environmental policy. Instead, climate change policy is about how we redistribute de facto the world's wealth. And he's IPCC official. So those deniers are absolutely right. And they only make up 13, I think it is, percent are dismissive. Now, if you look at if you are a denier, okay, or you're dismissive, or you're doubtful, or you're disengaged, or you're cautious, that adds up to 30, 40, 56%. While 44% are either alarmed or concerned. So the majority says, take your global warming and stuff it up your rear end, right? But we're supposed to listen to this coroner because he's such a caring man. And he's so, he's losing sleep now over climate change. Well, the guy's mentally deranged. That's all I got to say for it. But they put these guys up. Oh, isn't he a caring man? And he cares so much and yada, 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 yada. Now, let's go. I'm just going to do this today. Who are these immigrants that feel, let's see. I don't even know, is this Eritrean? I don't have no idea how to pronounce that, but he's one of those refugees. Like, is this a country or something? I never heard of the place. Who came here in 2012 is trying to sponsor other whatever they are, refugees to come to Canada, but has found it difficult because of lengthy processing times and caps that limit the number of refugees from certain areas of the world. He watches the news and hears about Canada's generous welcome of 25,000 Syrian refugees. He can't help but feel torn. He's proud of his adopted homeland and the open arms it has extended to Syrians, but he knows only too well that many refugees from other parts of the world don't have such easy access to Canada. So that's going to open the door, guaranteed, to more immigrants. So I'm starting to think maybe we ought to all be moving the other direction. Maybe not. But your society is my society, what we grew up to know. The Canada that I grew up in, the streets were full of kids. Pickup games going all over the place. The girls would be playing hopscotch or skip rope. There was always tons of activity on the streets. People were friendly. People helped their neighbors. People had to go somewhere. They didn't have to go look for daycare. They just pick up a phone and call a neighbor. I got to go out for a while and look after the kid. Yeah, send them on over. I'll give them some juice or something, cookie. That was a Canada that I grew up in. Schoolyard fights. Lots of sports and stuff. We were free. We were absolutely free. I mean, when I was 8 years old, I'd go where the hell I want. My parents weren't freaked. Well, they would get freaked out. They called the cops a few times because I just would get busy doing something else and lose track of time. And they'd have to, my mom would get worried, like, dark. Where the hell is he? I was just doing what I do, right? I was having some fun and looking at stuff and exploring things and what kids are supposed to do. And now we have our school here where the kids can't play baseball. I mean, I bring that up a lot because it really pisses me off. You know, you want to go play some pickup or something? Well, we can, but we can play catch maybe, but we can't hit the ball with a bat because it's class is a weapon now, so we're not allowed to use bats. And I'm sure if I threw the ball and hit you in the head with a ball, instead of you going ouch or you son of a bitch, I'm going to hit you in the head. Ban the ball. You know. So this our entire landscape has been changing for, well, basically since after the Second World War. And that's what the Second World War was about, getting that damn United Nations and getting that damn Israel on the map. You know, talk about magic, eh? You know, these things never existed. Hocus pocus, boom, there they are. And they're specifically designed to eventually take over everything. You know, it's like the green movement. It's like this green slime that's slowly creeping across the landscape and slowly getting in the nooks and crannies of your home and that, and till the point you can't escape the damn thing anymore. You know, we just got to stand up and shove this shit back. Because apparently, from that last article I read, there's more of us than there are of them. We got the upper hand on this. We're still carrying the majority. You know, they've been propagandizing this thing forever, and I would think that by this point, they're losing points, not gaining points. That's why they got to bring out these idiot professionals, like this coroner who can deal with deaths, but climate change, he can't sleep at night. Like, and you know, just to give the impression that climate change is, you know, weighs heavier on the mind than working with, you know, grieving families and that. Yes, hi, grieving family, how are you? I'm sorry that your kid got hit by the bus yesterday and here's his remains and I really feel bad for you, but holy crap. I mean, when you put that in context with climate change, come on, people, what's wrong with you? It's just your fucking kid. I'm talking the whole planet here, says the coroner. That's the message they're trying to portray. And people read this crap. Come hell or high water, I don't know how, but I am going to have to get a newspaper out. We have to counter this nonsense. Otherwise, we're not fighting. I mean, that's the easiest way to fight this back. Just get some stuff out in the neighborhood, you know? Because I don't care what anybody says, 99%, or maybe not 99%, 95% of your people in your local neighborhood either don't understand what they're reading on things like this, they're not searching the internet, they're watching TV. Okay? They're watching TV. This idea that, oh, everybody's on this. No, they're not. All you got to do is keep an eye on the numbers. The numbers ain't big enough. Not even close. You know, people put in a well thought out, well laid out video or show or whatever, and you know, they'll get hits. You know, people get real excited when they got 20,000, 30,000 hits or something. You know, but then when you look at you know, puppy pukes on kitten, you might see 10 million hits. You know, we got a problem. We're not getting to them. We're just not getting to them. You know, most of, you know, you got this group of people, if there's 50,000, if somebody puts up a video and there's 50 or 100 or 200,000 hits on it, whatever it is, I don't care if it's 2 million hits on it. How many of those are new people? How many people, the new people that actually understand what they're even looking at or what they're listening to? How many of those 2 million are the same people that go look at this one and go look at that one and go look at this one? So, the numbers have, if they were ever going up, they're most definitely stagnating, or they're not moving fast enough forward. And you need the pros, which are the listeners, to disseminate what they know to the people that really don't have any, we got to get to the disengaged people, I guess you call it. Here's some good news, I guess. Mississauga Forex promoter says he was kidnapped and beaten. That's a good idea. What else we got here? I got to read this one too. New cancer drugs raise hopes for patients but carry steep costs. A coin flip saved Steve Rudnick's life. 3 years ago, he was down to his final months and out of treatment options after a 10-year fight with late-stage chronic lymphotic or whatever leukemia. He was offered a Hail Mary, a spot in a clinical trial at Hamilton's Cancer Center, even though his swollen lymph nodes had become protruding bumps and bumps across his body. His first reaction was a resounding no. I'm nobody's guinea pig. Screw that. Now 63 thought at the time. But then my wife and I argued about it. She cried and talked about it, and I said, okay, I'll try it. The trial was for a promising new drug called Iberznoob, part of a class of drugs known as small molecule therapies, or targeted therapies, so-called because they are small enough that they can slip through the membrane of a cancer cell and disrupt the machinery inside it. Patients in the trial were to receive two types of yada, 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 yeah. Let's see. Okay, so they did, half the patients in the trial received the new drug in a capsule form 3 times a day, and half received a lookalike placebo 3 times a day. And it didn't take long for this guy to figure out that which side of the trial he was on, because almost immediately the lumps and bumps started to disappear. In fact, the results were so remarkable that the worldwide trial was halted permanently, and all patients receiving the placebo were put on the drug. Later, he received a call from his cancer doctor's office. The trial results had been unlocked, and as he suspected, was officially told he had been receiving the drug and not the placebo. She asked me, what do you think you were on? And I told her, and yada, yada, yada. He recalls, when you see the results from what I looked like 2 years ago, I looked like the Elephant Man to where I am today. You just don't have to be a rocket scientist to see the change. But the problem is he takes 3 capsules every day and will do so for the rest of his life until the drugs stop working. That's about $9,000 a month, or nearly $110,000 a year. In his case, taxpayers are off the hook for the astonishing cost as part of his agreement to participate in the clinical trial. Janssen Inc. Provides him with capsules free of charge. Is prolonging life money well spent? And the average monthly cost of newly approved cancer drugs in 2013 average monthly cost, okay. In up to 1980, the average monthly cost was $289, and then at 1995 it was $2,500. By 2001 to 2005, it was $7,000, and 2006 to 2010, it was $10,400, and 2011 to 2013, it's $10,700. So, where did that get to? So, is it possible And they're going to play this out. If we have, that's just one guy, that's one guy. Now, if you have 1,000 guys, it's always about money. Okay. It's never about really anything else. It's always about money, at least when you're concerned. There's no shortage of money to go fracking. There's no shortage of money to put up windmills. There's no shortage of money to put solar farms up. There's no shortage of money for all kinds of things. There's no shortage of money for research, really. But do we use any of that money? Is it fair that we take your money, the taxpayers' money, and keep this guy alive? The cost for 4 doses administered. I mean, how you can't even qualify the dollars, right? Of the 12 new cancer drugs approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in 2012, 11 were priced above $100,000 U.S. per patient annually. Only 3 were found to improve patient survival rates, and of those, 2 increased survival by less than 2 months on average. In just one decade, from 2005 to 15, the cost of intravenous cancer drugs covered by the Ontario government has tripled from $112 million a year to $322 million. Some recent examples. Let's see, another melanoma cancer treatment. The cost of 4 doses. The cost of 4 doses administered over 12 weeks. That's 4 doses. 4 stinking doses over 12 weeks is $120,000. Now, how's that possible? The overall survival benefit is just 3 to 7 months on average, not much longer than the length of the treatment. So they put out the cost per year of an average patient weighing 70 kilograms is $157,000 U.S. The average amount of time before the disease began to worsen, less than 6 months in one recent trial. Now, okay, here's the word I guess we're looking for. The sustainability problem is only going to get worse. Cancer is primarily a disease of the elderly, and Canada's population is both growing and aging as baby boomers push past retirement age. The number of people diagnosed with cancer is expected to grow by 40% in the next 15 years. Why is cancer going after the elderly so viciously? Most of my relatives lived to be, unless they got hit by a tree or something when they were young, lived very healthy, long lives. So why is such a high number of people over 65 suffering from cancer? I mean, the cancer. The age of those with cancer is getting considerably lower all the time. Why do these people have cancer? Well, simple, because you poison them. Okay, you poison these people. That's why they got cancer. Okay, you've been putting stuff into them, or in the food that they've been ingesting, or in the water they've been drinking. And, if you just fed them a glass of cyanide or whatever and knocked them off in a minute, people would look and go, Jesus, they just killed that guy? So what it is, it's about dropping the population. I mean, anybody listens to any of these shows knows they want to drop the population by 2/3, at least, 3/4. Depends how psychotic they are at the time. And we just keep putting up with this stuff. Look at what we've done to our planet. We've poisoned our water, and we've poisoned our food, and we've poisoned our air, they say. Well, we didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't create all these chemicals. I'm not the one that passed these deadly chemicals to be used in vaccines and food and water. I didn't do it. Just a small cabal did it. Because what's their game? Reduce the population. So how can we reduce the population without having a finger pointed at us? Simple. Take it out over a longer period of time. And that's what they've been doing. You know, like, my neighbor across the way, bless her soul, is 100, living in her own home. My neighbor beside me, I don't know where she is now. She's not, I shovel her driveway once in a while and stuff for her, but she's still getting around, still driving. The one old guy I used to take to some farm meetings and that with me when we were trying to get something sorted out as far as the way the farmers are getting beat up. As far as I know, he's still healthy. He's well into his 90s. Last time I talked to him, he was still driving. I haven't seen him for a while, but very healthy. But he is farm stock, drank raw milk, ate real food, ate real chickens, ate real hogs, ate real beef, nothing that was contaminated, and lived a long, and still does, as far as I know, a long, healthy life. So they implant these medical systems in here to tell you they're there to save you from whatever malady that you appear to be suffering from, never addressing the fact is why you're suffering from this particular malady, and why is everybody else at a certain age coming down with all this shit. They don't go there. And I don't know why the people don't go there neither. They've been trained through the TVs to trust the lawyers, to trust the doctors, to trust the medical system, to trust the police. And most of those people you can't trust. So they feed us the trust and we accept it. They're really smart, they're really smart people. Well, I don't know. I've met a lot of them. They don't seem too damn bright to me. Anyways, it's the same thing. There's a sustainability word again in the next paragraph. Sustainability, along with fair and affordable access to new treatments, are important concerns, according to a spokesman of the Innovative Medicines Canada, an umbrella organization representing more than 50 of the country's pharmaceutical companies. With the explosion of innovative oncology treatments, there is no question they're providing immense value to patients, to the healthcare system, said Glenn Monteith, the Association's Vice President of Innovation and Health Systems. This is a challenge that we're all facing, and the alternative is we don't have medicines available, and none of us want that. Christopher Longo is a McMaster University business professor specializing in health policy and one of 13 people and the only economist on the Ontario Steering Committee for Cancer Drugs, which provides advice for the ministry. When we have a limited amount of funds, we have to say, okay, where are we going to use them? He says, if I spend $100,000 on this to get a month of life, I can't use that in all these other scenarios where I could gain a lot more than a month of life. In a thoughtful academic article entitled, How Much is Life Worth? American cancer researchers Tito Fojo and Christine Grady take direct aim at the high costs of the new treatments, particularly those offering minimal improvements in survival. What counts as a benefit in cancer treatment? How much should cost factor into deliberations? Who should decide? Asked the two U.S. National Cancer Institute researchers. As oncologists, we cannot go on without answering these questions. In some sense, every life is, of infinite value, and we naturally avoid confronting the tension between not wanting to put a value on a life and having limited resources. The spiraling cost of cancer care, in particular, makes this dilemma inescapable. Therefore, of course, we must put a price on life. They looked at one new cancer drug called which is being used by a certain type, and 1 to 2 months survival, about $80,000. If we allow a survival advantage of 1.2 months to be worth 80,000, and by extrapolations, the survival of 1 year would be valued at 800,000. Well, that's still cheaper than the 900 grand the RCMP spent over the course of 5 months. So I'm still going back to euthanization of the RCMP. And so we would need 440 billion annually. Well, you just print it off anyways. It doesn't even frickin' well exist, does it? Okay. How many trillions was given off to the banks to bail their asses out, who, with their lawyer friends, caused it in the first place to enrich themselves and then throw everybody else out in the street when they were done with the scam? And what's driving up the costs? Number one is fear factor. I don't know. Number two is time pressure, changing markets. The U.S. sets high price, negotiating power, and so on and so forth. So, there's a little teardown house in Vancouver. I think it was going for went for 2.5 million or something. Now, is a life worth an old tear-down house? I don't know, right? But the fact is that these people, what they're doing here is they're like when we lost our hospital here. I mean, the hospital's still here, but it was during the days of the public-private partnership and the amalgamations of everything, and how everybody was short of cash, and we were going to lose the hospital because, holy Lord, I think it was $2.5 million the hospital was in arrears. $2.5 million. And a small town like this, you can use relatively small numbers to coerce people, and they did it. And I went to the meetings. I talked to the doctors. And, I said, if you divide that up amongst the people here, it's like a drop in the bucket per head to clear this debt out over whatever period of time. I mean, it's nothing. But the people never do their math. All they hear is the 2.5 million, 2.5 million, 2.5 million. Oh my God, WMDs, climate change, 2.5 million, 2.5 million. What are we going to do? Well, you people obviously have been fed the propaganda, and apparently you're too stupid to sit down and run a few numbers, so we, the experts, must take over. Oh, please take over, experts. We don't want to lose our hospital. Okay, so we're going to amalgamate these hospitals, and all the administration now, the taxpayers still on the hook for the expenses, but the administration has been gone private. And now people go in our local hospital that should come back out and don't. And, my sister is an administrator for a seniors home here, and she admits there's people that went to the hospital who they were waiting to come back, and then they get a call that they're not coming back. And, like, what the fuck? I mean, they weren't as sick, right? Well, so this is what we're in, this is a complete and total takedown from every direction, So I don't know. I go back to that newspaper all the time, We just get these things out and explain to people what exactly they're reading. I mean, they know in their own minds there's something desperately wrong going on here, but they're not getting the proper information. At least not off of this. I mean, this is one day's newspaper. I mean, I'm just buzzing through this. Everything has been split up and compartmentalized and divided. We're all divided now. I mean, Chief Justice Constance Gloob recalled as a feminist hero. Why aren't you just a cop? You got to label this. Okay, so this is a feminist hero now, right? Whatever happened to people? Whatever happened to people? Now, let's see here. Okay, now we have another problem here. This is one paper. For normally stoic farmers, the stress of climate change can be too much to bear. Now we had a coroner that can't sleep anymore because of climate change, and now we have the stoic farmers. The stress of climate change can be too much to bear. Farms are on the front lines. The war on climate change. Farms are on the front lines of climate change, and few people confront the stresses of extreme weather as intimately as farmers. South Africa suffered its driest year on record in 2015 with a drought that threatened the vital maize crop. The winds were unusually strong and it swept across Saskatchewan farmland without warning or mercy to canola farmers who had just cut and laid out their crops to dry. So we've got South Africa suffering its driest year on record in 2015, and now we jump right from there. Oh, not Tyler Hamilton. Tyler Hamilton, I want to meet you someday, you twit. Someday. Now this will be an interesting article because Tyler Hamilton wrote when they were bringing in all the windmills around here, all of this propaganda was written by Tyler Hamilton as far as the need for what to do about NIMBYs and so on and so forth. This is, okay, so what's Tyler got to say here? The wind was unusually strong, yep, and the farmers laid out their canola crops to dry. Now, Kim Keller, 31, remembers the mid-September day clearly. It was 2012, her first year working back on the family's 4,900-acre grain farm in Gronlid, a hamlet about 200 kilometers northwest of Saskatoon. An auto insurance adjuster for the previous 6 years, Keller realized after a decade away from the farm, that's where she wanted to be, back on the farm. The windstorm was fast and furious and persistent. We watched as all our hard work was literally blown away. Keller said, I wondered to myself, what did I just do? I had quit a stable job, and in my first year of farming, my crop was literally gone. It had a massive impact on her livelihood. The stress led to anxiety and despair that Keller has learned is all too common and poorly understood in farming communities. She worries that climate change is amplifying mental distress as farmers struggle with floods, unreasonable frosts, with floods, and windstorms, scientists say, that are becoming more frequent and severe. Planting crops year to year is becoming a roll of the dice, said Keller, a third-generation farmer. Farming has always been a roll of the dice. Always. Always was, always will be. What do you expect? Stable weather? You expect next year when you go out on July the 3rd, it's going to be 72 above and sunny, just like it was the previous year? Then you ain't a farmer. You don't know anything about farming. Okay? Unusual frost. We've had snow here in June. Is that unusual? Absolutely. Is that climate change? Absolutely not. That's called weather. And farmers run with the weather because that's the only choice they got. And that's why when I talk to the old guy that I used to drive, and we take meetings and that what they did, and he's amazed by it that we're so stupid today, that we depend on these trucks to be coming into our towns to keep restocking these grocery stores like it's going to be just like that forever. When he grew up, each county had its own cannery to make sure they had a stock of food. So if the trucks stopped coming, or you had a bad winter or a bad spring or a wind that came along and blew some of your crop around, you were prepared. But then this woman, or I guess, Kim, it could be a guy, I suppose, had been working in the insurance industry. You go to work, push some paper, go to work, push some paper. I have any idea what the insurance company, how big a scam that is, actually. And come back to the farm and then being mentally devastated. Well, what happened here is you had a wind come by and blow some of your crop around. And how that gets attached to climate change, well, only Tyler might be able to know, Tyler Hamilton. Anyways, in farming communities, she worries that climate change is amplifying mental distress as farmers struggle. Planting crops year to year is becoming a roll of the dice. The weather we tend to experience lately seems to be at one extreme or the other, drought or flooding, minus 40 or plus 35. These unpredictable and extreme weather patterns add to all other stressors farmers experience and deal with. When extreme weather hits, such as the droughts of 2001 and 2002 and the floods of 2010 and 2011, it can reduce crop yield by as much as 50%, according to Agriculture and Ag-Food Canada. A report published in January by researchers at the University of British Columbia and the McGill University, which brought us Brzezinski, came out of McGill University. There's so many globalists came out of McGill. It's ridiculous. And British Columbia, University of British Columbia, is just an indoctrination. All the universities are indoctrination centers. Found that between 1964 and 2007, crop damage from extreme weather, mostly drought, reduced production in Canada, the United States, and Australia by an average of 20%, double the global average. Co-author Naveen Ramakutty, professor of global food security at UBC, said the data cautiously suggests that extreme events are occurring more frequently over time. More certain, he added, is more recent events have had a greater impact. A warming climate with more volatile weather can also weaken crops, making them more vulnerable to weeds, insects, and diseases. Farmers already have it tough. Oh, here we go. We got the World Health Organization now weighing in on the story that started. The picture was in Africa. The story was about Saskatchewan. A couple of universities later, we're over here to the World Health Organization for their little input. And Tyler, I mean, he's got a direct line to all these guys, right? The World Health Organization has long identified farming as having among the highest rates of occupation-related depression and suicide, particularly during times of economic hardship. Climate change is expected to amplify that stress, taking a toll around the world. Part of the challenge is that farmers are a stoic bunch. They don't like to talk about their mental health bottling up until it reaches a breaking point. I talk pretty openly about it, but I don't think that's the typical in an industry like agriculture where everyone is supposed to be tough, said Keller. This has made it a difficult issue to track, particularly in Canada, where research lags behind Australia, India, and the USA. 1993 report from the Senate Committee on Agriculture lamented what it described as insufficient and inadequate data and an over-reliance of word-of-mouth and media coverage. 2 decades later, a word-of-mouth evidence still largely reigns. It wasn't until 2010 that the first Canadian study on suicidal thoughts among farmers was published, but it was limited to an analysis of 29 calls to a Manitoba crisis line. Late last fall, Andrea Jones-Bitton, an associate professor of epidemiology at the University of Guelph, which is the farm university, launched an anonymous online survey that asked Canadian agriculture producers to open up about anxiety, depression, and high stress. Her goal was to collect 1,000 surveys by the end of January. Results are expected in March. Now, can you imagine being a farmer? And some twit phones you up with a boilerplate sheet. Hello, how are you? what's her name? Andrea. My name's Andrea, and I'm with the University of Guelph, and we're doing a survey, and we're very, very concerned about farmers' anxiety levels and, levels of depression and high stress. And I know you guys don't like to talk about it, but I need to ask you to open up. Yeah, it's Andrea. Oh, like, do I know an Andrea? No, I'm University of Guelph. I'm a really smart woman, and we're doing a survey. But you need to open up. You need to tell us, was there anything that ever happened in the 50 years you've been a farmer that you got depressed about? Well, yeah, there was the one time 3 of our cows got rabies and we had to put them down, and then the rest of the family, hey, take rabies shots. That was rather stressful. Oh, I'll write that down. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, what about anxiety? Have you ever had any anxiety on the farm? And stress. I'm not talking real, average stress, I'm talking about high stress, You get any of that? You did have some of that. When was that? When you were 29 and you're what? 63 now? Okay, so, but you did have high stress at that time. That's good. I'll mark that down too. And obviously you have anxiety because I'm calling you. And we'll mark that down. And then we'll put it into our survey statistics, and then we'll unleash it on you poor bastards when we get it out. And we'll have you saying that you are all depressed, anxiety-filled, and you're just screwed. You need mental help. And we have a team that will come out and help you with that. That's how messed up this are. Leave the frickin' people alone. Leave them alone. Like, if you can't find something better to do than bother people, then just go away. Just go to hell away. We're doing a survey. Take your survey and shove it where the sun don't shine. How about that? Part of their canola crop blew away. Well, it went somewhere. Phone up your neighbors. Hey, Jimmy, you see some of my canola come by here yesterday? Yeah, geez, there was quite a bit of it. I think it's over at Jim's, like up against the fence there. We'll get some wagons and drag it back to your place. No problemo. Or maybe it's in Kansas with Dorsey. Who knows? 2 years ago, Keller started a social media campaign called Here for Farmers. It raises money for Farm Stress Line, a nonprofit crisis intervention agency. Every farmer goes through it, and it seemed like they couldn't get help or talk about it, said Keller, whose first campaign last spring lasted 8 weeks and focused on Western Canada. This year's campaign launches in March across Canada and the U.S. It's got a lot of people talking, she said. Well, it wouldn't have if you weren't doing it. Okay? Let's see. Australia's screwed on certain harvests. The biggest mental health impacts in Australia are on rural farmers, said environment scientist Tim Flannery. We have one of the highest rural suicide rates in the world because the droughts are getting worse and the heat waves are getting more severe. Now, I saw some stuff down there about Australia, and there was some very stressed out farmers. Guaranteed, they were totally stressed out. A lot of them were sick. Some of them had to move off their farms. And was that climate change related? No, it was fracking related. Okay? That's what that was about. So you won't hear about that in the media. But anyways, this is the kind of crap that's going on here. And in India, they're going to talk probably in here about India. Let's see. I like this. Nowhere is a tragedy more acute than in India, where the battle against an increasingly unpredictable Mother Nature has since 1995 contributed to 300,000 farmer suicides, often by consuming pesticides or other poisons. the situation becomes such a crisis that the Indian government will launch a heavily subsidized insurance scheme in April to help farmers against weather-related crop failures. Critics warn it doesn't begin to address the core problem, which includes a lack of mental health support that can de-escalate a psychological crisis before it leads to suicide and other psychological problems. Now, the problem in India, I mean, all of these places have had, all you got to do is look at the 30s, at the drought in the 30s. Was that caused by climate change? Nope. Well, there goes your climate change drought out the window. It's cyclical, always was, always will be. There are years of plenty and years of not. And what's happened, though, in India, and basically the farms around the world, is you have suckered these people into going into debt to buy this seed that they can't keep the seed, to which they always did. The farmers were quite independent, and they were basically farming for their own families in their own small neighborhoods, and they produced enough to feed themselves. And so then they came in, just like the University of Guelph did. They brought the young farm kids down to the university and plugged them full of nonsense to take back to their parents' farms. And the result of that is that there are just a fraction of the number of a very small fraction of the number of family farms there used to be in the past. They loaded them up with debt. They loaded them up with they weren't keeping their seed. And so they're buying all this stuff all the time. Okay? These are all expenses they never had before. You know, they'd clean their own seed and plant their own seed, and maybe switch out some seed with somebody else, and then it become industrial, and this is what came out of the university, and put the farmers in debt and kept them there. And why is this stress? You know, where did the stress come from? It's an externality, if that's what you want to call it. Okay? These farmers didn't have that kind of stress before. You know, I know my uncle's farms, and I didn't see anybody stressed about anything. You know, they were growing animals, they were growing food, they had the gardens, then they had the fields, and the food had, they weren't buying stuff, they weren't buying pesticides, their animals were healthy, they didn't have these huge vet bills trying to punch more production out of the animals produced what they produced, and everybody was happy with that. And the people lived old and very healthy with sharp minds, not like this nonsense we have today, which very seldom even resemble men and women anymore. So they did the same thing in India. I mean, the stories are prolific on the internet. The Monsanto coming in, the bankers coming in, offering the more or less subsistent farmer a way to raise himself above where he is today, and that they have the plan. All you got to do is sign here. Okay, sign here. Anytime somebody tells you to sign something, okay, you know who's asking you to sign it, okay, and it ain't the creator. Okay, sign here. Deception, entrapment, and put all these small farmers into ridiculous debt. They weren't allowed to clean their own seed anymore. It was the company seed or no seed, and you got to buy the seed. You got to buy the Roundup or whatever you're slamming on here. So all of these extra expenses are dumped onto a crop that may produce, I don't know what, 10% more, even if it was 20% more of the crop. You've poisoned your land now, and you've basically bankrupted yourself. And so, like, you have 300,000 Indian farmers killed themselves. And I would think if you looked at the numbers prior to that, of number of Indian farmers that were whacking themselves, I would think I would venture to guess that the numbers are considerably lower than 300,000. Okay, and this has been going on. It doesn't matter. Who was it? Who was it? Kissinger, right? I think it was Kissinger said, you control the food, you control the people. Okay, and you don't really need to explain that much past that. Control the people, or control the food, control the people. Control the electricity, control the people. Control the water, control the people. It's all about control. It has nothing to do with bigger crops. It has nothing to do with anything other than control. You think Monsanto is concerned about these? Did Monsanto or whoever was supplying whatever into India? Do you think the bankers sent their families, geez, sorry about that card? I don't think so. Okay, so what they did over here in the West was they bankrupted the farmers. Okay, got them to buy bigger and bigger equipment. I mean, I remember that change. I mean, farmers were driving small tractors, open, no cabs on them. Something that was cost effective. And next thing you know, they get all these big combines, big tractors with big cabs on them and stuff. Well, how is it you can afford that? How did you get there? How did you go from driving that little thing, that rusty old truck, to a new truck, new combine, new tractors? How the hell did that come about? Well, the kids said we had to do it. Everything's so competitive these days, and the bank said we had lots of equity. So they said it would be okay. Then they put the interest rates up and bankrupted them. So same thing happened in India, except it wasn't. They weren't in a position to go out and buy great big new combines and that. I don't think. But these farmers over here, I remember the stress. Okay, these farmers weren't stressed out people before. And then once the kids come home from university with all these cockamamie ideas and sold it to their parents, then the stress began. Okay, then the stress really began. Because you used to be just a farmer, but now you're a businessman. And you got the banks breathing down your throat all the time. And you got to get the crop in. Of course, now you got to have crop insurance. So you got all these extra expenses that it doesn't matter how big a crop you grow or how good it is. What you're doing is feeding your labor into somebody else's hands for their benefit and not your benefit. And then you end up in a very, very stressful position, which really sucks. So the devastation that they have, they're pushing the psychological problem as hard as they can. They're pushing the climate change as hard as they can. You'd best not say boo about an immigrant or anybody, or you're racist. And we can't have that now, can we? You can't have an opinion anymore. Let's see here. This is too weird, man. Okay, here we go. I wanted to look at this thing today. It says the parliamentary report takes a too casual approach to doctor-assisted suicide. Canadian legislators assume that when it comes to voluntary euthanasia, everyone is rational and well-meaning. The parliamentary report on physician-assisted dying lacks safeguards for those who might be pressured into signing away their lives because of poverty and social isolation. Same game again, eh? killing is an extreme measure. In Canada, is rarely allowed. Even judicial execution is forbidden. So it is disconcerting to see how casually a parliamentary committee looking into medical assistance in dying treats it. The majority report on the Special Joint Committee on Physician-Assisted Dying is almost certainly well-meaning and has taken on issue that is difficult and fraught with emotion. It has also taken on an issue that if Supreme Court rulings are to be met, requires new federal legislation by June. The Nova report is recommended that would amend the criminal code to let physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, and pharmacists under special circumstances kill people. And that's under the criminal code. So you know what I'm thinking. If you got a politician that's really been irritating the hell out of you, or a bank, or a lawyer, or whoever, it might be worthwhile becoming a physician, a nurse practitioner, or a pharmacist. Because under certain special conditions, you too can kill people, and you don't have to worry about the criminal code coming after you. So if you got, if you want to, I think we all ought to get into this one. I mean, we got to get these damn lawyers and bankers out of here somehow. Those being killed, though, would be required in writing, if possible, to request their own deaths. Hi, I've put you in a miserable position, the government, and the banks and the lawyers and whatever, and you seem really stressed out. There is a way to relieve that stress without taking pharmaceuticals, really, at least not over the long haul. Then just think of all the money the pharmaceutical industry would save and the taxpayer in turn would save. Look at that. That would be wonderful. So if you wouldn't mind just filling out this little form here, you can right here request your own death. Very simple. Just fill it out. Mail it in if you want. And we'll call ahead to give you a time and date that we could slip over and help you out. To meet the criteria for assisted death, 2 independent doctors would have to certify that an applicant suffered from a grievous and irremediable medical condition that caused enduring and intolerable pain. The affliction could be physical or mental. It need not be terminal. Because we've got physicians and nurses and nurse practitioners and even pharmacists who can help you out. So it need not be terminal because, well, we have the capacity to, make it terminal, don't we? And turn in tomorrow. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Make a new reality show on this crap? And I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, apparently we have a show on TV called Lucifer and one The Walking Dead and some other dickweed stuff. Man, am I glad I haven't got a TV. Holy jumpins. If I did have a TV, I would put my foot through it by now. But yeah, Oprah will be talking about it, and the newscasters will be talking about it. I'm sure they get it into the preachers will be talking about it. And the school will be talking about it. Do you have a family member that's older or regardless that's, has a lot of pain or, mental stress and that? Do you, Jimmy? Okay, I want all the kids in the school today to think about your families, your aunts, your uncles, your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, or anybody else, and rate their stress levels and their pain levels, and we'll see who maybe would qualify to be on the new reality show. And if you win, you ain't going home. For now, the report would limit voluntary euthanasia to those 18 and older, but in 3 years it says competent, mature minors of any age should be permitted to apply. It's like it's like a job application, eh? Apply here. Holy crap. I mean, what does it take? I mean, what does it really take? Mature minors of any age should be permitted to apply, which brings me up. I was talking to a guy in the coffee shop, or the Max, where I get my coffee, the one old one-eyed owl, and we were just chatting, and students came up, and I said, when I talk to these 17-year-old students and that, I just got to look at them and go, whoa, and they're chronologically 17, I said, and this guy was talking to probably. He could have been, well, it was at least late 50s. He blurted out what I've been saying for a long time. He says, well, yeah, like you said, they're chronologically 17, but he said they're only like 12 mentally. And I said, yeah, I put him at 10 to 12, these 17-year-olds. But you too will be able to apply. Can't get a driver's license yet, and you can't vote, and you can't go to an R-restricted show, but you are, any age should be permitted to apply. And I'm sure there's all kinds of kids in the school system right now that would just voluntarily line up for this. Because at the tender age of whatever. I mean, wait till they really ramp up. Wait till this first group of kids get into these sex education programs, and it's trauma. It's trauma is what it is. This is not education. This is trauma to a child. This is completely foreign to the mind of a child. They're traumatizing them. And then they'll put them on some pills. And then the kids will get even crazier. And then they're going to be begging for these doctors and nurses and that to take them out. Those diagnosed, and he's back to the story, those diagnosed with ultimately crippling diseases such as dementia would be allowed to make advance applications for their deaths. And that's a good thing, that's a very good thing. So there's a great, I can't wait for these. Maybe these commercials already hitting TV, I don't know. But that's a great sales pitch. Do you know that more people every year at younger ages are getting dementia? You never know when it's going to hit. We used to look at dementia as an old aged malady. It was, Grandpa's, just not remembering the way he was. But, as we mature into this world, the age limit's coming down. Now you could start to get dementia when you're, well, in some cases in your 30s, maybe even your 20s. And what are you going to do if you do get dementia? How are you going to make that crucial decision? Are you going to let somebody else make it to you? No, we advise that you make it for yourself. And that's why we invite you to come in now and sign the paperwork. So that if you do, down the road, get Alzheimer's or something, well, something we would diagnose as Alzheimer's, it may not be, but we would likely diagnose it for you because you, obviously being the idiot you are, don't have the capacity to diagnose it. And we would bring you in on a regular basis, as you age, yearly or whatever, and then bring it backwards from there, shorter periods. And we would ask you simple questions, right? Can you remember what you were having for breakfast in 1987 on Tuesday? Do you remember that? You don't. Oh, I do. You want me to tell you what I had? Says the doctor. You remember that? Oh, yeah, mine's as sharp as a tack. You seem to be getting a little fuzzy there, my friend. Well, let's try a few other things. You want to sign those papers now? Just in case. I'm not saying that you're going that way. I'm just saying this may be the day to sign this. Or you can come back at their next examination meeting, and we'll go over this again, and we'll have another new assessment. And in the meantime, I'd like to make you a prescription, which is designed to fuzzy up your brain a bit. So hopefully when you do come back, you're prepared to sign these papers. Just because we care. Just because we care. Okay? This is how ludicrous this is. It's in the newspaper. People should be just appalled that this stuff is in the newspapers. But most people don't get it. Well, isn't that nice? I know I wouldn't. Maybe I would. But it is nice that we have that choice, right? Isn't it? We should have a choice, right? And these are the professionals. They would know better for us, right? I mean, they're not going to kill you today. You just sign up for it. So when you're ready to do yourself in, you've given them permission. I think that's a wonderful program myself. All publicly funded hospitals would be required to offer euthanasia services to ensure that those living in remote and rural areas also have ready access to the procedure. A procedure. The end of your life is a procedure. Nurses and nurse practitioners, as well as physicians, would be allowed to kill qualified applicants. Can you kill me, please, doctor? Well, let me see. Well, you're not qualified yet. We'll have to qualify you. You got to fill out the application over here. Yeah, just go see Betty over at window 4. Yeah, and she'll give you the application to make sure that you're properly qualified. Yeah, we can't kill you until you're properly qualified, but Betty will get you qualified. She qualifies everybody. Yeah. We had a really nice 16-year-old kid in here yesterday. He had a bad case of acne, and he was a little depressed. So, he'd probably get over it, but, Betty cares. So she qualified him. We killed him yesterday. He had a pimple. What the hell? Very unusual pimple for a 16-year-old. We had to put him out of his misery. Qualified applicants. This is ludicrous. If the majority's recommendations are accepted by Parliament, Canada will boast one of the most wide-open, voluntary, I can't even say it anymore, euthanasia regimes in the world, on a par with those of Belgium and the Netherlands. Well, at least we've got something to shoot for, right? It'll be like Dancing with the Stars, from around, they have it in different places, Britain's Got Talent or whatever, right? We'll have killings on stage from Canada, Belgium, the Netherlands, and as other countries join more in, that we can sell more franchises to the program. Kill television, It'll be almost like Let's Make a Deal, right? The old show, the Monty Hall, Let's Make a Deal, or Spin the Wheel there with Bob Barker. Hey, Sammy, who's our next contestant? Well, let me tell you, Bob, our next contestant is William Schumer. William, are you out there? Come on down, William. Yay! William runs down, If you can answer these 3 skill testing questions or spin this wheel and get a 12, your lucky day, because we're going to kill you right here on stage. What do you think, audience? Yay! And this guy will be pumping his fist. Yeah! I want out of here. What the hell? How did we get here? I mean, this is so bizarre, when the first time I saw the movie Soylent Green, while it's one of the, the many Charlton Heston old B movie deals, right? And I find looking at these old B movies from way back, they're very blatant about what they're talking about. They don't even try to mess with it. They just get in your face with it. And when I first saw that, which was a long, long time ago, it was very obvious to me that's where they're trying to take us. And then when I found out, Christ, can't be more than a couple of years ago, that I think the name of the book was Leave Room or something. It was either Make Room or Leave Room. I think Make Room, Leave Room, whatever it was, one of them 2 books. And now I forget his name. Forwarded by the total nutcase that was writing about overpopulation, population bomb, and all that kind of stuff. Paul Ehrlich, that the book that became Soylent Green was forwarded by Paul Ehrlich. Then the movie made a whole lot more sense. Okay, and that's what they're turning your cities into. Okay, with this mass immigration. I see I haven't really looked into it too much, but I saw some stuff go by on YouTube or in a newspaper article or something, or an online newspaper article or something, that the immigrants coming in, the Muslim immigrants and that, don't like to have to go to the bathroom in a particular space. So they apparently have the right. They removed the "you can't pee here" bylaws or something. I don't know if that story is even true. But when I look at Soylent Green, it would appear that it might be true, and if it's not true today, it will likely be true soon. Okay, and that movie describes the world that we're pretty damn close to right now. Pretty good, two food companies on the planet or something. They control all the food. And they cook up the shortages, and they don't have to make that much food really, because there's nobody else growing it. So what's the big deal? So then they make you Soylent Green Day, which is a special day, and that's once they have enough bodies euthanized that they can turn them into crackers. And then the people, not realizing what they're eating, they really like that Soylent Green. It's really good stuff. And that's going to happen too. Why waste, with all the hunger in the world? Why waste all this protein? That would be stupid, And think of all the time and the money and the if you take all the graveyards on the planet, because of course they're all interconnected, because they're all on the planet. How many people get buried per day? And somebody fires up a climate changing backhoe in order to dig this hole and disturb the earth, thus releasing more CO2 to dispose of something that we could eat. I mean, why don't we just process this stuff? And that's where they're taking us to. And it's ludicrous. And people aren't up in arms. Let's see, where was I here? And this is another part of the psychological game here, right? Where'd I leave off here? All this might make imminent sense in a world where everyone, including every teenager, was rational, where physicians were all seeing, where family members always had one another's interests at heart, and where the old, sick, and disabled were not viewed as social burdens. But in the real world, it pays to be more suspicious. A recent editorial in the Journal of American Medical Association notes voluntary euthanasia in the Netherlands has spawned a host of end-of-life clinics staffed by doctors who are perhaps too willing to certify that their patients need to die. Well, you got, the whole health industry is about profit. And end-of-life clinics, come on down. This Thursday only, from 3 to 4 in the afternoon, we've got a 2-for-1 special. Come on down. Not only will we kill 2 of you for the price of 1, your loved one will get a rose. That's right. And then it gets very competitive because, well, if you're going to be in a business, you have to have cash flow. So they will get more innovative on how they're going to advertise. And it could be quite interesting to watch, no doubt. Let's see. Some of the committees get this. The dissenting report, 4 conservative MPs note that the Supreme Court ruled only that competent adults, not minors, have the right to medically assisted death. They questioned the recommendation that would allow those diagnosed with crippling diseases such as dementia to pre-select their death, noting the Quebec right to die law does not include this measure. They suggest that those who are diagnosed with mental disorders should be seen by a psychiatrist before getting the death go-ahead. So this is, again, the spin, right? That, we just can't have kids walking in and say, go whack me because I don't feel good today. So now you always have the one wing is in power and the other wing of the bird is not in power, is the opposition. And it's the opposition's job to shine the light on those in power and say, we're a little bit concerned about this particular piece of legislation or this part of it. And, we're really not sure if this is the exact right way to go ahead. So then they do go through this stuff, and they suggest that those diagnosed with mental disorders should be seen by a psychiatrist before getting the death go-ahead. So they're all for it, absolutely, all completely on side with it. They just spin it out a little bit, and the average reader goes, oh, that's something else to think about. They should have a psychological exam. Yes, I believe that. I mean, Jesus, people. I mean, not you people. I mean, the people in UCY rule, but the people that would go to the store and pick up this newspaper and take it home and read it. I mean, this is one issue of this stupid newspaper that's on the stands everywhere. So it's Sunday. Sunday, you go pick up the paper, go home, have a coffee, read the paper. You get to talk about the poor farmer, listen about the poor farmers being screwed over by climate change. Then you've got the other farmers that are committing suicide all over the place. Then you've got the very thoughtful coroner who finds climate change more stressful in his life than what he does working with families who family members have died or been in accidents or whatever. But he finds climate change more dramatic in his mind than that. And then you work your way through by the Jesus. By the time you read all those other stories, you're going, I'm depressed. I'm full of anxiety. Oh, no, it's not just stress. This is turning into high stress. I'm feeling depressed now. And then they turn on the TV after reading this crap, and there's a happy, good-looking woman in a short skirt, perfectly molded, as plastic as you can possibly get it, explaining to you that, why don't you come down and see Sally Sue here at the You'll Have a Nice Ride clinic. Yes, sir. Look at our lovely reclining beds where we'll show you a wonderful movie about nature. And you can relax and sit back and say goodbye to all your cares. Come on down. I mean, this is how this game works, people. It's the same with everything they've ever sold us. I don't care if it's chocolate milk or toothpaste or margarine was a beauty. I mean, they sold the snot out of margarine. Just like butter. I can't tell it's not butter. It's and don't doubt that they hook these people up that they're going to kill. I mean, this is a whole new industry. Carbon credits is a whole new industry. None of it's legitimate and none of it's right, but it's new industry. It's a new way to make money. Okay? That's all it's about, money. And getting rid of people, of course. And through the amount of stress they're dumping on people these days, people are getting ready to line up. I've had it with this place, right? And I haven't seen a happy story in here. I don't see any happy stories. No happy stories today. I was talking. I don't know if Kathy's listening, and I don't even know if I can find what she sent me. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but she sent me some documentation. But the T4 slip. I don't want to get in trouble by her because I'm fearful of Kathy. If she's listening, I'm just kidding. But she left me some stuff here, which I may not get to. Given Canada's rush to legalize euthanasia and assisted suicide, brackets, murder by doctors, note count 2, item 9, to better understand my primary research motivation as mum to M. Now, mum to M, she being mum and M being her daughter, who is handicapped or developmentally handicapped or whatever. And Kathy, I don't know, I gotta be careful. I better just shut up. But the T4 slip, she said they used to have, this is off the Nuremberg trials, so I haven't got a look at this yet, so I'm going to stuff this in. Maybe people can take a tour through that and see what all that has to say. But it went right back to Nuremberg trials. Apparently, in that, I think, well, if I can, where'd I put that damn thing anyway? She, when they used, I don't know if she worked at a clinic or whatever, or a place where they looked after people that were handicapped, but she said they used to joke because I think it was the Nuremberg trials. You'll probably find it in that document I put in there. And where did I say she said that was? That is, I might as well just put this whole thing in here because then it will give you an understanding. It tells you where to go as well. And but I think what she was talking about yesterday, I had a lot on the go. I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I think what she was saying is that in the Nuremberg trials or in the euthanasia camps or whatever it was when they were euthanizing, the mentally retarded and stuff, which came directly from America over there, and then they imported all the stuff from Germany back to America because, well, that's just what they did. And so they said they used to kid about the T4 slip when it came in for their income tax. It was like an inside joke. Did you get your T4? I got my T4 to get your T4. And apparently it came up in the Nuremberg trials, which should be in that document that I put in the chat, that that was the ticket or whatever that was given to those who were going to be euthanized. Well, they got a T4 slip or something. And so she did, it was like her inside joke, right? I got my T4 slip. And maybe that's what our T4 slip's going to turn out to be in the future, is our goodbye slip, right? And so, who knows? Yes, we do have the right to bear arms, even if they are up in arms. Yeah, we got to, I mean, I am... The reason I say I'm nonviolent is because I know they want us to get violent. And that would just make them happy as all get out. But we have to maybe not so much become violent, but to become much more assertive in our actions. One or two people in a town, yammering away at people is a difficult situation. We need to do something different soon. Anyways, I hear music, so I'm going to try and run this out here. I want to thank everybody for listening, and everybody take care. Don't fill out the forms if we give them to you. Not much trouble. Hal's up here at 3 o'clock.
Trees lie to your face.